Y'all not pro Zelensky. No, y'all not. Y'all can miss me with that. Y'all are not pro Zelensky. Y'all just anti-Trump. That's all it is. Bye.
Trevor, why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you own a suit?
This man is fighting for his country. A sovereign nation got invaded. His people are dying. And this motherfucker talks about him wearing a suit. I hate this fucking country. I've never in my life felt like I do right now. I don't give a fuck what he wears. This man has been respectful to every leader in the world. Everybody. And you clowns want to fucking do that shit to him when he comes over here. And then talk to him like shit and kick him out of the White House. You fucking disgraceful son of a bitches. Man, I just want to be next to Zelenskyy right now. I wish I could talk to him. Forgive us. God damn, man, I can't. I'm sorry, y'all. I can't believe what I just witnessed in our White House.
Yeah, this is actually very weird and strange to me because these same groups of people that are so upset and say they're embarrassed to be an American, they weren't saying anything when the Biden administration was in office. They found crack or cocaine or whatever they found, right? They didn't say anything about that. They were very silent. That wasn't embarrassing to them. Whenever they had the LGBTQ pride protest or pride parade that they had in front of the White House and one individual exposed their breast, didn't say anything about that. Or what about the sex tape that was leaked that happened at the office in Congress? One of the congressional staffers, two men were caught having sex in one of the offices. They weren't embarrassed about that. These people are, I mean, the double standards and hypocrisy is crazy to me. And for all of the people that are saying that they stand with Ukraine, the only question that I have with them or for them is, if Ukraine was left down to their one last soldier, are you going to go and fight next to him? And that is a yes or a no, because you can't say that you stand with them and aren't willing to go do that, because that's exactly what they're experiencing right now. They have a shortage of soldiers willing to fight in the war that they're allegedly actually forcing citizens, men that don't want to fight, taking them from the streets and forcing them to go enlist and fight in the war that they don't believe in. And so, one, it looks like they're infringing on their bodily autonomy, right? That the liberals and the left always screaming about. So somebody's being forced to fight in a war that they don't believe in. Well, essentially, your bodily autonomy doesn't exist. So if you stand with Ukraine, why are you not going to go and fight that war for these people that don't want to fight, right? Because you stand with them. Because this doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm just speaking, as an outsider, not really too experienced or knowledgeable about the whole history of Russia and Ukraine and all that. But one thing I do know is that Ukraine cannot beat Russia on their own. Ukraine also cannot beat Russia with just funding. It doesn't matter how much money that we send to them. They're going to need somebody to go fight the war for them eventually. It's just inevitable. So what are we doing here? Are we just funding them into perpetuity, like until whenever? I mean, there is no end, essentially, it seems like, until it's over. There's two ways that this ends. Is Ukraine loses to Russia, and that's pretty much it. Or we go and fight with Ukraine, and NATO joins in and fights with Ukraine, and we all fight. against Russia, and we all die, and everybody's at war. So I mean, it's a never-ending situation that I see from an outsider. So somebody has to come to an agreement. That's just the way things are.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing. We're working with the US on this point after my meeting with President Trump last week. And let me be clear, we agree with the President on the urgent need for a durable peace. Now we need to deliver together. Finally, we agreed that leaders will meet again very soon to keep the pace behind these actions and to keep working towards this shared plan. We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead, and to unite around a new plan for a just and enduring peace.
Yeah, just like I said, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just listening to what people have to say and just interpreting it from my own perspective. But he just affirmed what I just said, is that they're trying to drag NATO into this war so eventually that the U.S. can get involved as well. They're trying to usher in the new Bretton Woods, the 2.0, right? They're trying to usher in the new global world order. That's all that this is. That's what I see. And how do you do that? You do that just like they did back then with World War II. That's how they reset the whole thing, reset the whole monetary system and all that. That's what I see. I'm not an expert, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but from what I see and what I'm observing, I mean, this is them kickstarting the new world order and what the Economic World Forum has been talking about. Their whole globalist agenda. That's all that I see here. But hey, who am I, right? I'm just some guy on the internet.
When President Trump posts that President Zelenskyy is a dictator without elections, what are you thinking?
I think President Trump is very upset at President Zelenskyy, and in some cases, and rightfully so. Look, number one, Joe Biden had frustrations with Zelenskyy. People shouldn't forget it. There are newspaper articles out there about how he cursed at him in a phone call because Zelenskyy, instead of saying thank you for all your help, is immediately out there messaging what we're not doing or what he's not getting. I think the second thing is, frankly, I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelenskyy, the Vice President and I, three of us. And we discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we want to be in a joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. If we're your partner in an important economic endeavor, we get to get paid back some of the money the taxpayers have given, close to $200 billion. And it also, now we have a vested interest in the security of Ukraine. And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him no way that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys. One of the points the president made in his messaging is not that we don't care about Ukraine, but Ukraine is on another continent. You know, it doesn't directly impact the daily lives of Americans. We care about it because it has implications for our allies and ultimately for the world. there should be some level of gratitude here about this. And when you don't see it and you see him out there accusing the president of living in a world of disinformation, that's very counterproductive. And I don't need to explain to you or anybody else, President Trump's not the kind of person that's going to sit there and take that. He's very transparent. He's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he sent a message that he's not going to get gamed here. He's willing to work on peace because he cares about Ukraine. And he hopes Zelenskyy will be a partner in that, and not someone who's out there putting this sort of counter messaging to try to, hustle us in that regard. That's not going to be productive here.
Boom, there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. Any other explanation that you hear from any Democrat or leftist does not matter. What you heard there is what exactly happened. They agreed to something, he showed up, and he basically reneged. He didn't want to do it. And then he wants to have a debate in the Oval Office in front of the American media. Dude, that is not how you do this. You can't just come to the table with an agreement that was already hashed out and then just change your mind and just blindside them like that in front of cameras. That is insane. In his office at the White House, he messed up. And there's nothing else that you can say about that. That is not how you go about things.
All right. So do you know what the United Nations resolution was? I'll tell you if you want to hear what it was. It basically said this has been a horrible war. It's time for it to end. The job of the UN is to bring about peace in the world. I thought that's what the UN was created to do, to stop wars and to prevent them. And that's what the resolution did. Was it antagonistic towards the Russians? No. Back to the point. But it also didn't praise the Russians. All it said is, this is a bad war. It needs to end. And by the way, at the Security Council, which has not been widely reported, the first resolution on Ukraine that has passed the Security Council in 3 years, passed this week because of the leadership of President Trump, and it's a resolution that says, bad war needs to end, let's bring the two sides together. That's what the resolution is. Again, what is the United Nations for? Isn't it not a forum to promote peace in the world? And shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd. We are trying to end a war. You cannot end a war unless both sides come to the table, starting with the Russians. And that is the point the president has made. And we have to do whatever we can to try to bring them to the table to see if it's even possible. I'm not promising you it's possible. I'm not telling you it's 90% likely. I'm saying it's 0% likely if we don't get them to a negotiating table. And the sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction with death and destruction and all kinds of dangers surrounding it that could spiral into a broader conflict, the sooner people grow up and realize that, I think the more progress we're going to be able to make. But the president's crystal clear. He campaigned on it, and he's going to govern on it. And that is, he is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace, and he has been very clear this is a war that would have never happened had Donald Trump been in the White House, and it needs to end, and we're going to do everything we can to end it in an enduring and sustainable and fair way.
Well said. That's it. And it doesn't matter what any leftist or Democrat has to say, because they don't vote for it. If they're sitting there complaining and telling people that, oh, this is embarrassing, I'm embarrassed to be an American. Well, I mean, I'm sure you would say that because this is not what you voted for. You voted for Kamala Harris to continue to fund the war and continue the war. So when you have somebody that does the opposite of what you voted for, of course you would feel embarrassed and you would not like what's going on. That's why it doesn't matter what they say because they didn't vote for it. But us, Trump voters, we voted for this. This is exactly what we asked for. And we're getting exactly what we voted for. That's why we're not upset. Actually, we want more of this. We need you to stand up for America and stop funding these endless wars. And that's just point blank, period.
I hope y'all understand that the only reason President Trump and J.D. Vance were rude to Zelenskyy was that Zelenskyy didn't bring the one fucking thing he was told to bring to this meeting. And that was a plan for peace. No, instead he just talked shit, told us the war was going to be on our doorstep soon, and expected us to cut another fucking check. Let me explain something. I'm going to say it real fucking slow for the liberals in the back. Ukraine's military cannot defeat Russia. It does not matter how much money we or the EU give them. They cannot defeat Russia, which means this only ends one of two fucking ways. Russia conquers Ukraine or Ukraine sues for peace. And I'm sure there's some of you going to be in my comment of Ukraine can defeat them. Okay, good. That if Ukraine can defeat Russia, if you're one of these fucking delusional Americans that thinks Ukraine's military can actually defeat Russia, then stop pretending that Russia's military is a challenge for the United States. If you think Ukraine can defeat them, stop pretending that we need to keep spending trillions of dollars to develop new military to make sure we're safe from the Russians. If Ukraine can defeat them, they are not an enemy of ours. If Ukraine can defeat them just with funding from us, we don't need to worry. Either Russia is one of the biggest, strongest, baddest fucking militaries on the planet, as our intelligence agencies keep telling us, and that's why we need to spend trillions to build new fucking planes, new tanks, new technology, new missiles, or they could be defeated by Ukraine. Like, y'all aren't fucking thinking this through. Like, just sheer fucking numbers. Ukraine cannot defeat Russia. We need to stop pretending like they can. Zelensky needed to show up with a path forward for peace. But he didn't. He showed up just wanting more money because Zelensky doesn't want the war to end. Because if the war ends, he loses all his power. He doesn't have his whole country under martial law anymore. He actually has to have an election. He actually has to have a media that can question his decision. He actually has to allow political opponents to campaign against him. And he doesn't want to go back to dancing on fucking television shows. They were rude to Zelensky because he didn't do his fucking homework. He didn't do the one thing they asked him to do, and that is plan for peace. All he wanted was another check so he could continue the fucking war. A war he cannot win. Get that through your fucking heads.
You see the way Trump talks to Zelensky? That's what we've been missing. That's what I voted for. That's what I've been looking for.
Yep.
Somebody talking with their chin. Who you talking to? This is America. You better be humble when you walk up in here, making demands. Who you think you talking to? This big Trump and big Vance. And I like how Vance stepped right in. Trump sat back like a G. Trump came in, no, I got this, big homie. Hey, bro, you need to check yourself. We're doing you a favor. The United States does not need Ukraine. We can sit back and let Russia destroy y'all. So you better come with some humility, bro.
Do you see what that lunatic Trump has done now? No, what? He's only made a deal with Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Wow, that's amazing. I know Trump's nuts on a lot of stuff, but that's really good news for Ukraine, isn't it? It's terrible news. It is? How? Putin could go on a rampage across Europe. It could be Poland next. Did he say that? No, but it's what everyone else said. Everyone else? Well, some in NATO have said it, and all the countries that have been pouring billions into the war. What about the fact that the war really began in 2014 under a secret US-led coup with the aim of putting military bases literally on Putin's doorstep as a part of the NATO expansion trying to get Ukraine into NATO, even though George Bush Sr. in the 90s had said that that would never happen? We don't like to talk about that. Okay, so have Ukraine at least been winning the war so far? No, they've been losing. I get it. You're upset with Trump because Ukraine should keep fighting because they still have the troops to win the war. No, they're actually running out of men. They're all getting killed. But if Ukraine will lose all of their men, then how will they win? The West need to keep sending support. We all have to stand with Ukraine. It's the right thing to do. I commend your ethics. So following your logic through to the end, when Ukraine do finally start to run out of troops, then we should start sending our own sons and daughters to the front line to fight Putin. No, we won't do that. But you just said we all have to stand with Ukraine? Yeah, I said stand with them, not fight alongside them. That would be suicide. So when you say standing with them, what you really mean is sticking the Ukraine flag on your Facebook profile and 100% not standing with them physically on the battlefield where it actually counts? Now you're getting it. Also, saying you stand with someone is a popular thing to do. It's good to be popular. But isn't that what Trump does?
Yep, this is just what you call another empty virtue signaling coming from the left. They don't mean anything that they say. They just want to stand with people that are marginalized and oppressed. They just want to look like the good guys. That's all that this is. Another fake virtue signal from the left.
You don't come into the White House with your trademark T-shirt, and if you don't understand the nuances of the English language, you don't interrupt the President of the United States. Most importantly, I don't think Mr. Zelensky understands that the United States is the only key to his survival. And he further does not understand, I wish he did, that we give him allowances that we do not give other clients. He doesn't quite understand. I don't know why that he is in a unique situation. How could I sum it up best? I think this is the key to it, that the people that Zelenskyy does not feel comfortable with or doesn't like, the MAGA movement, the conservative Republicans, they have the power over his fate. And the people that he dalliances with and he feels comfortable and he's a rock star with, the Europeans and the American left, don't have any power. The Europeans talk a great game, but they have not come through with the economic and financial and military assistance as was promised. And the American left that has made him a rock star, they're not in power now. So he has to understand that he has to get along with the president. That means you come in with a suit, you're very polite, you do not interrupt, and you cut a deal that's mutually beneficial on the mineral concession. That creates a de facto commercial tripwire, roughly along a DMZ, and now you have the basis for a lasting peace.
Is nobody focusing on the fact that Zelenskyy literally said this? You have ocean between you, and it's very nice. But soon you will feel the effect. What the hell do you mean by that? Why would you say something like that when you literally came to the White House begging for money? You think you can just threaten the United States into Venmoing you? People are saying that Trump and JD were rude. How would you respond if someone literally threatened you while also begging for money? What a scum!
I think what Zelenskyy was trying to get at when he said that was that if you don't keep funding my war, then the EU, the Europeans, are going to have to step in, invoking Article 5. Then forcing the United States into having to fight that war, then basically being involved, what he just said, us being invaded by, the other allies of Russia. That's what that meant is, hey, the only way that you're not going to feel any pain at your shores is if you just keep giving me the money. Just keep funding my war, then the Europeans will have to be left out of it. And then if they're not left out of it, then they'll invoke the Article 5. Then we're eventually going to have to fight that war alongside them. This is a threat. That's a threat in my opinion. But I don't know.
It really doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. You're never going to give him credit for it. You're always going to hate him, and you're going to take the complete 180 stance. So sit back, shut the fuck up, and enjoy the next 4 years, because you can't do anything about it. And he's moving at breakneck speed, doing absolutely everything that he campaigned on, which is exactly why we wanted him, which none of your presidents were able to do. He's offering you the transparency that you so desperately wanted. Hence the reason why you saw him and Zelenskyy going at it. You saw it with no filters, live, so you knew what the fuck was going on. He's trying to end a war, which is something that he ran on, and he's showing you front and center. It doesn't matter. You hate him for it. He's trying to show you the transparency and the waste and the corruption and the fraud and not caring about American people when it comes to our spending and wasting of our taxpayer dollars, and he's laying it out for him, and you're attacking him for it. He's trying to secure the borders and get rid of violent criminals, and you're somehow comparing it to the Holocaust as if you don't know history, forgot history, or just don't fucking care. He's made our borders more secure. He's making our streets more secure. He's trying to end the geopolitical nightmares that took place under Biden, and he's working to bring down the cost of living by getting rid of that fraud, by streamlining the supply chain, and by doing energy and oil and gas policies that will bring those costs down. If we can reduce our taxes and reduce cost of insurance, your cost of living will go down. But it doesn't matter. You're going to bitch about it and always find a negative. So sit back and shut the fuck up, because you're not objective.
Yeah, and it's only because it's Donald Trump. That's really it. That's the only excuse that these people have for demonizing all of these policy ideas, right? If he come out and say he wants to fund the war, he wants to give Zelenskyy as much money as he wants, fund this war forever, then they're probably going to be like, oh no, we shouldn't do that. We should not be sending money like that. They're going to attack it, right? It's because Donald Trump said it. If he comes out and say, you know what? Leave the borders open, wide open, let everybody in, let anybody in, no background checks. It doesn't matter where you come from. just if you make it to the border, you're an American. Matter of fact, we're going to give you a citizen as soon as you show up to the doorsteps. If he said that, all of the leftists and all of the Democrats, they're going to come out and say, oh no, close the border. It's a national security threat. Shut it all down. If Donald Trump comes out and say, you know what? We're going to increase taxes. We're going to increase taxes on everybody. Everybody getting a tax raise. And they're going to come out and attack that. They'll be like, oh, no, we should decrease taxes. Don't just lower them all for everybody. I guarantee you. I'm telling you, it's only because it's Donald Trump. That's it. That's why they literally go against everything that he says and that he wants to do. It's because it's Donald Trump. That's really it.
I understand that people have their own personal view of Trump and may not like him. And I mean, I don't see him as all the things that you called him. I actually think there are millions in Europe that are absolutely delighted and relieved that he won the election, and as a strong leader can highlight all the failings of our weak liberal global order that has completely failed its citizens, failed to make Europe safe, failed European economies. We're shrinking. We're in terminal decline at the moment, and we need to take a leaf out of Trump's book, who is boosting growth with lower taxes, smaller state, deporting illegal immigrants, deporting criminals, all the things any normal state should be doing, but our countries are not. So people are welcoming his arrival. I think his presence here in London will give people hope that our country can have a similar change, fingers crossed. And I think it is money well worth spent. The amount of money that is wasted by our government on ridiculous DEI projects, woke projects, you've got carbon capture projects that don't work, costing billions. The billions that Keir wants to send off to Chagos Islands for the surrender of our territory, 9 billion is suggested. All this money should be spent on improving British lives, British economy and our interests. And I think that's what Trump's visit will do.
If you're American and for God knows what reason you still support Donald Trump, you should be massively fucking ashamed right now of yourself, of your country, and especially your shoddy excuse of a president. The way that he has just spoken to Zelenskyy is fucking horrific. Not just him, but also the little arse weasel that is JD Vance. He and his fellow countrymen have been fighting relentlessly for the last 3 years after Trump's best mate Putin decided, it's a nice day to take over another country. Some of the stories of the families who have had to flee the Ukraine, who are now currently living in the UK, it's just absolutely soul-destroying. So for that absolute thunder cunt that is Donald Trump to say to Zelenskyy, you're not ready for peace, and basically taunting him and saying that he's the reason, or he's toying with people, millions of people's lives, and this is going to cause World War III. How incredibly disrespectful.
I think Donald Trump is doing an amazing job so far on the things that he ran on. Immigration. The border is, just his taking office, the border is effectively shut down. The attitude change from the federal government effectively closed the border. Look at the people coming across now. Look at the encounters today versus what was going on with Biden. I think on March 4th, you're going to hear them talk a lot about the success on immigration. As it relates to Ukraine, look, Zelenskyy made a huge mistake on Friday. All he had to do was show up and sign this deal. And he just couldn't do it. And sometimes these guys, when they put on the military uniform, they have trouble taking it off. He needs to take off the military garb, put on the garb of diplomacy, and understand that he's got an honest new broker on the field who can actually help him end this war, maintain his sovereignty, maintain prosperity for the Ukrainians. And regarding Elon and the bureaucracy, if I just may respond to something you said about the bureaucracy, there seems to be, when Republicans are president, that this idea that the bureaucracy and the government should not be responsive to the political leadership of the executive branch. That is totally false. It has nothing to do with a loyalty test, but it does have to do with whether or not the unelected bureaucracy is responsive to the political oversight of the government. And Democrats right now do not seem to believe that the president should be able to be the president. We have elections for a reason in this country. We vest all executive authority in a president of the United States, not in an unelected bureaucracy, not in independent agencies, but in a president. The president's agenda matters. When a Republican is president, the bureaucracy resists. It has to stop.
That sounds more like a king. It does not sound like president of the United States.
There's two parties, Dana. One wants bigger government, one wants smaller government. I think I'll take it to the midterms.
All right.
And boom, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The double standards and hypocrisy that comes from the left, the mainstream media, the Democrats, is stunning to witness every single day. He's right, 100% right. For some reason, the standards that the Republicans have to be held is completely different than the standards that the Democrats are held to. And it's obvious, clear as day. especially if you're watch the mainstream media and pay attention to what they say. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the content, guys. Hit the like button if you did. Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Let me know what your opinions are. And of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.